connectors, well, already Joanne also explained a little bit on that. I will not go into this. The only important thing I want to highlight here are the main components that are needed for a minimal viable data space based on EDC. So we need a connector, we need a registration service, identity hub, federated catalog, and a dashboard. So that's like the 5 components. Of course, it depends on also the approach, because I will also talk a little bit on this. See, this is like, you know, how the one participant is having all the different components installed and deployed. We have, of course, the connector, the user interface for the connector, which is the dashboard. There is an identity hub only in case we are going to be used DCP, which is the centralized claims protocol. So this is actually something of the thing that we are now moving towards, but now we are using AUTH2, which is DAPS. So this is there are 2 approaches, the decentralized and the DAPS. Then we need a data sink if you want to consume the data, and of course data source if we want to also provide external sources, and some vaults to store certificates and things like that. Then there is a federated catalog somewhere in the data space. We have also an identity provider somewhere in the data space, and a registration service also somewhere in the data space. So basically, in our case, deployment is based on EDC, version 0.10.1. Now it's more, but of course we can update to these new versions. I think that there is nothing that is not backward compatible. Of course, the dashboard also based on the Eclipse, but we have provided many extensions, improvements in the dashboard. We have a federated catalog also. Then we have the identity provider, which basically is based on Keycloak, and the registration service. We have like a custom implementation in PSNC. But for the AD4GD scenario, we don't have registration service, so we don't need it. You know, this component at the moment. So this is just we have 2 installations of PSNC: the AD4GD installation, and you know the more development installation where we are testing more components. So this is not in the AD4GD, but we have created our registration service for this. So this is showing you between two participants. You know, as you see, there is only one federated catalog, one identity provider, the registration services, and how the components are going to each other. Okay, so let me go to the so there are 2. These are the 2 dashboards that we have. Let's say for AD4GD, one is, we call it the consumer dashboard, and the other one is called the provider dashboard. Both of them are basically, of course, providing an entry point to the EDC. And in fact, each of these is connected to, of course, a connector, and each connector can be, in fact, be both a provider and a consumer, right? We just call them in this way to have like 2 separate instances clearly identified, but in fact, both can be consumer and provider. Why? Because we have a federated catalog, right? That was the idea of having a federated catalog. At the beginning, if we don't have federated catalog, then you need to have clear roles. Who is the provider and who is the consumer? But if we have a federated catalog, everybody can be provider and consumer. So, so here, of course, and I will take you quickly. Maybe, okay, let's try to do this endpoint of the STA. Oh, okay. I didn't show you this data in the database, the harmonized data. Okay. So I can create a new asset, and I will call it water level in, and I will call it GDDS. And we go. Yes. Okay, so here is application JSON version 1.0. This is not necessarily everything. Okay, but okay. So here, base URL. This is my endpoint to the Central Things API that I just showed you. And then there are some options here like allow proxy path, allow proxy query parameters. So the first one is to allow the users to specify, for example, endpoint for observation, endpoint for data stream. So you can put like what is after the slash of this. This is the proxy. And the query parameters is to provide the parameters of the Central Things API, for example, top, skip, filter, all of these parameters that are of the Central Things API. Of course, if there will be some authentication, you can put it here. And you can also even say, I want, for example, to provide us some headers. So in our case, for example, which I also didn't mention, in our case, our Central Things API service can generate not only the typical JSON, the standard JSON, but also JSON-LD. So, and I can say here, please give me the JSON-LD. So this is like a header for that. But okay, so I will not go to that. So, so I create this. That's it. Okay, then you have created the assets. The assets should be somewhere here. Berlin. There are too many assets, okay, here now. But I'll just show you. The next step is to create a policy. This is where the actual control layer takes form. And the policies can be basically to say, for example, at the moment we have for time intervals, for location, for purpose, or you can also specify custom. Custom means that you provide the ODRL, because everything at the end is ODRL. It's specified in ODRL. And this is a policy. And then you define the contract definition. The contract definition is putting together the asset and the policy. And so I can say here, water level, Berlin, GDDS, contract definition, access policy, okay, we don't have much time here, okay. So, and then the assets, I can say Berlin, Berlin. So obviously I cannot see all of them now. I will just put this one now. I create the contract definition, and then the consumer. From the other connector, I will go here, I go to the catalog, and then I will be able to see the link. I have lots of them created. But again, so this one is just one of those. The example that I was just creating, I have just too many now. And the next step is just to negotiate. It's basically to say, I want to negotiate based on the conditions that are provided for this particular asset. So I negotiate, and then I can access these assets. So I can just negotiate. So the contract definition was complete, the negotiation was complete. So I go here, and I see that this has been signed now, today. And of course, I can transfer from here. So I can say, I can transfer to local, so download the data, or I can put to min.io or to other endpoints if we have connected to our connector. And then I can say here, for example, just give me the observations, right? Because this is the path of the Central Things API. And I say the transfer. And this goes and fetch from the Central Things API through the connector the data that is available here. And it's just got the result from the connector. So as you see, we can of course put all the paths in the central thing. So navigate an API, provide parameters in the API, and everything that is necessary to work on the API level. So yeah, I mean, very quickly because I don't have time, but I guess that gives you an idea how it works. So questions? Yes.
So this is kind of not for you, Raul, but more for our friend from Berlin. Is there actually any restriction on, is this open data already?
Yes.
It is. So this is a test. So you do not have, as an organization, any sensitivity about this data being public, because it's already public.
No, it's not our data, it's from the Berlin Senate. They publish it.
Okay.
Yeah, but the predictions are different. The predictions are ours.
No, I understand. I'm just trying to understand the realities there. Okay.
For example, if the Berlin Senate say we just restrict to Germany, we can say, okay, so the access to this data is only for Germany.
Yeah, so you could check the participants and say, what country are you from? And that would be a credential and blah, blah, blah. Yes.
So that's one thing. Now, well, first let's finish with this discussion, and I will just tell you something more about other potential way of data sovereignty that we were discussing.
I sort of have a silly question, because you have two dashboards where you define everything manually. There should be a programmatic way of doing a bulk contract, the layer that is built.
Yes.
Do you have to build that layer, or Eclipse provides this layer already?
It's already provided. So we have also notebooks created to showcase this. And yeah, as an example, we took all of the records from GeoNetwork, from our registry in AD4GD, and we imported everything automatically. Of course, we didn't do this manually. And another thing I didn't show you, which is something like another new thing that we added, that this is not part of the new dashboard, the typical dashboard, is that we now also provide this additional metadata. So we are now allowing more complete description of the asset. And here, for example,
More complete data sequence of numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
So actually, we are providing something for the first time.
And I can show it here. So this is, as you see, this is basically some JSON-LD as well, providing the metadata for this asset. And this is available now through the connector. And yeah, so this is also very nice for us, because we just, we are very keen on metadata, like most of people here. So we love metadata. And now there is a way of doing this. So yeah, but as you see, the dashboard from the consumer is different version than the dashboard from the provider. Right? So, because this is the old version, and this is the new version.